Language teaching and assessment as part of the language teaching subject. My name is Yeleni Ailén Narváez Prado, and let's just start with an overview of this presentation. First, I'm going to start talking about the language teachings, then assessment, and finally, I'm to discuss and highlight some similarities and difference between these two processes. Let's begin. With the first one, what's language teaching? As teachers, we know that is what to decide inside the right classroom that we teach. But in order to teach that we need different activities, we need something that is going to help our students to move from the place they are in the place. We want them to be taught things, their task activities, and it's important to understand so that in practice or in teaching, we need those tasks so that the students use the target language. The main goal of language teaching is language acquisition and also providing the ability of the fact that our students will be able to use we are teaching very important also the highlight point. Number 3, language teachings. Number 3 is a continuous progress throughout the school year. We're adapting and we keep repeating and we keep using language tasks for different purposes, and it's really important to understand that it's something that we always do keep repeating. It's not something that it has final destination, that once we finish or reach one thing and then it's over without moving and continues and are completely adapt to what the students are needing and how the students are responding to our teaching. The number 4 says that social and emotional and social development. I decided to include this one because when your teacher 4 says that the social and emotional is true, that our main goal is the right language acquisition is being done by students improve their abilities to be flown in a language. But as teacher, we know that activities when we design have a broader range. They have just much deeper connections with the students, and when tasks and activities are done correctly, they can have a profound impact on students and social type emotional development. Of impact could develop in body, cultural awareness, and some other values that are also really important to their lives. It is true that they're not necessarily connected to academic part of it, but their life skills and style contribute that the main objective that I've mentioned before, which was the acquisition and also improves the ability. Now, it's also important to analyze and ask ourselves as teachers, why do I teach myself? What is my purpose with teaching and support that? In front of my students, I teach. Why? I'm doing this is no doubt kind of physical and why, but more in practice within the class correct questions. And the first answer that came to mind after reading to the textbook that was teach because we have an academic goal. We have a set of skills that we want our students to achieve and we want to play for it because we are improvising. We have a program that has lessons plan, that we have a unit plans, we have so many one to them. So first, many tools get to achieve our students from where they want to be where to then take knowledge that we want them to have seconds for by me completely important not only for context for national context, but I think that very international all over the world is very standards of a school right in the function because we want our students to be successful, but not only on our own terms but also according to the international terms that want they to be accepted universities. We want them to just go to all these places where they want to go to schools and of course wherever. The students have a sense of belonging and they feel accepted when they feel comfortable and engaged within the classroom. They gain a sense of personal development. They feel like to be belong, they are doing well, and that's also of the reason why I teach. Because I want my students to feel comfortable and confident with what they are doing, and so the confidence will pay off later. But they continue to take risk and continue to simply try new things in life. And in 4 reasons. Because that one I have included here is because learning a different language has a cultural impact, and I think that our students are influenced in a very positive way when they learn and the second language. We're going to move on to something that is similar in many aspects and connected to language teaching, which is language assessment. What is language assessment for? In the same way that language teaching requires tasks for the language assessment process, also requires activity to get to point where we want to be language assessment. It's a collecting progress. It's a collecting date on student performance and language ability. So what we did in the classroom, what we did all those activities that had the primary goal of teaching to more students and improve our students' art skills. We get information on what we are doing by using of the assessment tasks. So that those of why I say that it's really connected science. It would not to be able to have information about how our students are doing to the way are really doing, because some things as teacher we wonder how did we understand that is worst possible question we could ask ourselves, but the Hamburg language test really gives us a clear idea of how where our students are. That is why it's very important and therefore connected the language teaching. So I have included which is the first step of a large progress, of course, because once you collect all the data area with like lot of information, and that is when you start to analysis and just make different decisions and move and edit and just correct what you were not doing so well, and just to keep in providing the things we are doing right This is first, which the first thing, we know that they collect as a formal information through the assessment task, whether the decide to start making decision and adapt, or teaching accordingly. It is important to note that teacher has assessment, language that's to interpret, of course, information results, and of course, making important decisions within a classroom that, of course, are going to affect a language teaching. Now, why do we assess? Assess is probably on the most important part within teaching process, and despite the fact that they are different and although we have different purpose, it's not possible to talk about teaching, adequate teaching, without an evaluation for what is the what paradox, right? As although they are different, they are still so close together, they cannot be mentioned without having to address the other way. Why can I evaluate first? Because I want to understand more. I want to see my students are, I want to see if my students are reacting well. I want to see how my students are feeling. I want to see my students, they are the second reason why the one that I have included here is because we have to adapt for teaching. We have to be really responding to those needs and being cutting and padding and testing things together in order to compensate and make something that fits works for students. And the last reason I have included because to also need to update resource practices, all when it's if material using if the routines we are doing actually working, this could be another reason we will evaluate. Okay, to conclude, I have placed as a support to affirming throughout the video bibliographic references. Thank you.